We're on a mission from God.
So, Phil, let's start with the question that every teenage boy and girl is asking and has been asking for months. When are they going to get their hands on the new Xbox?
I knew you were going there, Sarah. I could just tell the way you were teeing that up. Yeah, it's, supply is definitely behind demand right now. And I think there are, multiple reasons. We started with, I'd say, some silicon issues. That's still stuff for us to work through. I think we've all watched the news and we've watched the supply chain issues with the shipping, and it's just demand is very high. Supply, we continue to work to fulfill, but it's definitely true that when an Xbox Series X or Series X hits the shelf, that they are gone almost instantly. We're working hard to fulfill that. But it's going to be work. And regretfully, I think we'll be in this state into the next year. It's just the state of the world that we're in right now.
So is there no end in sight?
No, there is. We're doing work around expedited shipping. We're working with our supply chain partners. But I do think it's more in the order of months than kind of weeks. And obviously the holidays are right in front of us. So I know I'm getting a lot of questions, a lot of birthdays, a lot of people wanting to get prepared for the holiday. So if you see one and it's something that you want, if you see an Xbox and it's something that you want for this holiday, I'd recommend picking it up. We have two products in the market. We have the Series X and the Series S. The Series S, we're able to make more of them. The die size on the chip is smaller, which means we get more chips out of the same wafer to get into our kind of supply chain issues, which allow us to make more of the Series S. So you might see more of those available than the Series X, but both of them are in such tight supply right now that it's kind of a constant work. I didn't know when I took this job that at certain points of the year, my job would be more about managing supply chain than it is about managing creative, but that's kind of the state I'm in right now.
So maybe I can get an Xbox refrigerator faster than I can get an actual Xbox.
The refrigerator is coming. That one took some work as well. It's as you know, the gaming community is just so active and so kind of into what the culture is. And it's nice when we get these moments in gaming. Our Xbox fridge, after we announced the Series X, there was a meme out there about the way it looked, and maybe it looked like a refrigerator. And I love how the team just kind of leaned into that. And now we have a mini fridge coming this holiday, which will be here. The supply chain is working. We will have mini fridges, but I suspect again that it will go very quickly. It's not just consoles, it's new controllers, new headsets, and it's not just us, right? It's the whole industry is just really booming right now. There's such a demand for gaming that the industry is working hard to keep up with it.
Got it. Okay. So how about we move on to talk about Game Pass, which is the Xbox subscription gaming service. So in September 2020, you announced that you had 15 million subscribers. And then January, I heard you say 18 million. And then a few weeks ago, we heard an executive from another company throw out the number 30 million. So which is it?
We're sticking with our last public number is 18 million subscribers. We will announce another number at some point. We're just, frankly, right now actively managing the great demand from both creators and players. And for the longest time, gaming was really a retail-driven business. You had retail packages, I'm old enough to remember, on the shelf at Egghead Software, GameStop, where you'd go in. Then things moved to digital purchase of retail games. We've obviously, over the last year, seen a huge swell in free-to-play games, both on mobile, PC, more and more on console. So we had this view that I think subscription can also play a role. That diversity of business models in our industry is a really healthy thing for the creative and for the consumption of video games. Not everybody can look at a $60 or $70 game and afford to add that to their lifestyle right now. So we can offer through our subscription access to over 100 games. You get access to those games on PC. You can get them on your console. Through xCloud, you can stream them to any device. And we've seen an amazing uptake in the subscription globally, which has been really nice. And it's leading to more people playing more games, which for us is really what it's all about.
Which is more profitable for Game Pass? Is it the subscriptions or the microtransactions?
The biggest contributor on the revenue side is the subscription itself. In fact, the kind of games that we like in the subscription are it's not really there to drive big microtransaction games. A game that's primarily driven through microtransactions will go free to play, and they'll just distribute the client to anybody out there. What we see as success in Game Pass are unique games that people really might not have looked at if it was purely retail was the only way that they could go play. They get access to it in the subscription. It's a very low friction way to try new things. You can click, you can download, or even recently we added the ability on console to click and actually start a cloud stream right to your console. So you don't even have to wait for the install. I just finished a game, frankly, last night called The Artful Escape. Fantastic game. People should try it. But it's, one of those games that is just so great for Game Pass. It's a smaller game, but it's also a game that's trying some new things creatively. And that's really what we hope the subscription can do. I mean, we've seen it in video. If you think about TV right now, the amount of creative diversity that we see across all of the major subscription services, I think is very healthy. I do think business model is actually part of the creative process when creators are creating new games. And the fact that we do have retail, we have microtransaction, we have subscriptions really working well across the platform gives a great canvas for the creators of the world.
Okay, so you mentioned briefly a moment ago cloud and cloud gaming being a part of the Game Pass. So this is like the streaming of video games, kind of like Netflix. But one of the biggest worries that gamers have is like you always want this need for speed, right? And so if we're relying on the cloud for our internet support and not so much what's on our machines at home, how do you account for that? Because right now, not everybody has the best internet.
It's a great topic. And, for us, when we think about our cloud, Xbox cloud gaming, it's about offering choice to players who have a choice. So for you and I that maybe have a console in our home and we really want to download games to that console and, as you say, play the experience with something that's local, connected to our TVs, that's absolutely something that we want to support. In those kind of markets, we look at cloud as really a convenience feature. I'm not always in front of my console. I want to be able to take and play on my tablet or my phone when I'm away from my console. Is the experience better on a local gameplay? Absolutely. I mean, the speed of light still exists. We still have to move the input and output electrons across the internet. So there's no doubt that it is a different experience. We just launched a few weeks ago in Brazil. And Brazil is a really interesting market where there is a console market and a gaming PC market. There's a ton of markets across the globe that have had gaming for years and years. We're not bringing gaming to that market. But what we've been able to do through xCloud is we've been able to offer players there the ability to play Xbox games when maybe the console is not part of their family choice or their life choice right now. And we're seeing tremendous demand. So there's other markets where maybe they're not led with gaming PCs or gaming consoles, but these creators are still building amazing stories, characters, and worlds that anybody should be able to play. So through xCloud, for some of us, it's a convenience feature when we're not in front of our gaming PC or our console. And for other people on the planet, it's going to be the way that they access this content. And we have to bring the absolute best experience to every player. We have the capability as Microsoft with our Azure data centers and our capability there to really marry our gaming focus and our cloud focus together to offer something that's very unique in the market with Game Pass, xCloud, and the Azure backend. It's providing a really great service to millions of people.
So it sounds like it also depends to some degree on the kind of game you're playing. If it's a really fast-paced shooter, maybe that's not always going to be the best solution to do the cloud gaming. But for other types of games, it won't be as much of an issue, the speed.
So when we launched, we were on last generation consoles. So for those tracking, let's say our Xbox One S were our server blades. More recently, we've moved our backend technology up to the most recent Xbox Series X backend for our cloud gaming service. And we've seen a tremendous uptick, not only in latency latency, which we continue to work on, which is kind of the time difference between when I click a button and when I see an action on screen. But load times, fidelity of the experience, it's going to be something we constantly focus on. I'm playing more and more cloud games today just because it's so easy. A new game launches, it's really easy for me just to click that button and I'm into the game in 10 seconds. And maybe on my home console, I'll start the download. So when I get home, I'll actually be able to play the local version when I get home. But more and more, we're seeing all the genres working on xCloud. It's always a learning journey for us. We're still in that part of the process. But yeah, I'm pretty bullish on the capability over the long run of cloud to really unlock these games for really anybody on the planet who wants to play.
Would you think like cloud gaming, or at least through Game Pass, could really take off if we don't have like a Call of Duty or a FIFA or Grand Theft Auto? Like, what will it take for that to happen?
Well, we're bringing some of our biggest games to cloud day and date with the launch. It's the nice thing about Game Pass. When we launch a game like Forza Horizon 5, which is getting ready to launch, Halo is coming this December. Those games launch into Game Pass on their launch day. So anybody who wants to play those games can either buy them at retail. We're not exclusive to the subscription, so they can clearly buy the game if they would like, or they can subscribe as part of Game Pass, and then they get access to those games on the cloud, and they can play those games wherever they want to play. At Microsoft, we look at this as a journey. I don't need everybody to start playing on cloud tomorrow. That's actually not even our goal. I don't need everybody to turn into a subscriber. I really believe in this diversity of business model, diversity of access as being a key to our industry's growth. I know it's easy to fall into some of the tropes of everything's going to be X or everything is going to be Y. What I've learned in my multiple years in gaming is that change is more gradual than that, and gamers will adopt to the things that bring them the best experience, not necessarily the kind of buzzword that's out there that everybody feels like you need to flock to quickly.
But I mean, will there be a day where we won't even see Xboxes? Like, it will just be clicking onto our TVs and we don't need an extra machine?
I don't think so. I think about music as my example. I'm a big fan of music. And with the advent of streaming music, when I look around me, I have more devices capable of listening to music than I did before, when it was just kind of LPs or cassettes or CDs. I think with the advent of streaming, we're still going to want to have, for those of us that it's part of our lifestyle, this kind of hyper realistic, hyper fidelity device that we plug into our television. That is our plan. Our plan is that consoles will be part of the equation for years and years to come. And that's why we've invested so much in this current generation and continue to invest. But not everybody's going to play that way. Just, sometimes I'm listening to my music over Bluetooth into my headset while on my phone. Other times I'm sitting there with a higher infidelity audio system. I think gaming will be the same way. Sometimes I'm playing on my PC. Sometimes I'm playing on my console. And I think that choice of access, choice of business model, choice of creative is one of the things that will keep gaming growing. And over 3 billion people play games on the planet today. It's just crazy to think about. Nearly half the planet plays video games. And there's not one style of game, one business model of game, one device that people play on. Build around the player, enable the creators to do their best work, and I think good things will come.
Okay, because we saw the relationship between Microsoft and TV manufacturers. So when you hear about that, you start thinking, wow, could there be a day when we don't need an Xbox? But you're saying that for some people, they will want an Xbox machine. Other people may want to go straight through the TV, or we'll just do our phones or our laptops or whatever it is.
Yeah, our strategy doesn't hinge on selling one device. And I think if you're in the tech industry today and your strategy revolves around selling one device, I think that's a hard kind of road to follow. Just because today as a consumer, I have choice on where my media comes from, where my news comes from, where I read, where I listen, where I watch. Like, it is really me at the center. So for us, I don't have to sell consoles in order for Xbox to be successful. I don't have to have Windows PCs solely be successful. I don't have to have cloud be successful. So I want to have a great console, and I love the consoles that we have in market. Like I said, we're committed to those over the long run, but I don't think it can be about one device to kind of rule them all. I really think the player rules it all, and the creators are right there behind them, building those amazing experiences for them to play.
Okay, let's move on to talk a little bit about Microsoft's gaming studios. You got, I think, 23 now. So is this acquisition spree over, or is it just heating up?
I'm really proud of some of the creators that have chosen to become part of Xbox. You know, so many of these creators, they have choice. If you look at some of the people we've acquired and partnered with, it's people we've had long-term relationships with, and they've come inside of Xbox now, and they see our roadmap on platform and service. And I want them to be able to do their most amazing creative work as part of this team. We offer some financial stability for them. It's not about the success, only the success of their next game. I want to give them some more creative capability, longer timelines when required to do their best work. And that's my goal. We're big believers in the power of content. You've heard Satya Nadella talk about it, Amy Hood talk about it. So we're always out there looking for people who we think it would be a good match and teams that would be a good match with our strategy. So we're definitely not done. There's no quota. There's no kind of timeline where I have to go acquire studios by a certain time. But if we find a studio where we have a good fit, we share what we're trying to go do and what they're trying to go do. And if we feel we can both get better together, absolutely. It's one of the kind of privileges we have of being at Microsoft and having the capability to take a long-term approach, and adding amazing creators to the portfolio is an important part of that.
And Microsoft has a reputation for acquiring, some big companies like LinkedIn and GitHub and giving them a great degree of independence. And of the studios you've acquired, the big one that pops in my head is Bethesda, and they're a big company. What's your strategy with the big game studios that you brought under your belt?
Yeah, it's similar. If you think about Todd Howard and the teams at Bethesda, we've known them for so many years, going back to the Morrowind coming to the original Xbox as their first console build of that game. It's a lasting relationship. So these relationships were really built on trust, on shared view of where this industry can go, and our ability to bet on each other on the path forward. And I'm excited about that. But absolutely, when I think about Bethesda's great at being Bethesda. I don't need Microsoft or Xbox to come in to help them be a better Bethesda than they were. I want to be listening. I want to be in listening mode with the creators, whether it's Bethesda or Tim Schafer at Double Fine. I think about all of the creators at Playground building Forza Horizon 5. There's amazing teams out there, and I want to be listening to those creators and getting the signal from them on what are they seeing, what are they trying to create, and then challenging ourselves as a platform company. Can we build the best platform for them so that they feel like they can do their absolute best work? And that's an ongoing journey, right? It's not a destination, it's a journey. We'll be on that journey for years, but having them be the best version of themselves and not somehow, all getting the kind of Xbox stamp if they don't want it is fine. Right. Keeping them independent is great.
But not every acquisition attempt has worked out. Discord didn't go your way. Talk a little bit about that, and are there any other deals that you want to go for but haven't been able to make it work?
It's a small industry, the game industry. It's funny to think about, from a business side, we're $220 billion a year, growing by double digits. Like it's an amazing business when you think of just the scale of it, 3 billion people who play, and yet the industry people in it, it's still fairly small. It's growing, but we all know each other, and there's always conversations that are happening about how we can help each other. I think our biggest competitor, I always say, is apathy. It's not each other. As an industry, it is us continuing to push innovation together. And if there are big acquisitions or small acquisitions that we think can help us from an innovation standpoint, we've got a lot of support from Microsoft to go do that. So it's kind of a constant work for us to be talking with the world's best creators.
Okay, now let's talk a little bit about you, Phil. You've been at, you have the look in your face. You've been at Microsoft a long time. I understand you started as an intern, and now you're very high up. And my understanding is that gaming hasn't previously been part of Microsoft's senior leadership team. So how has that changed the role of Xbox within the company? It seems like it's more important than ever.
Yeah. It's been a really good journey with Satya Nadella, Amy Hood, the CEO and CFO, the board, and talking about the journey that we're on in gaming. We saw some trends. We thought we would see some disruption and some kind of translation of the games industry. We were seeing this potential for cloud. We were seeing the potential, the growth in digital, the importance of community and social, the importance of safety and security, areas that we're heavily invested in, both as a company and inside the gaming group. And when we sat back 5 or so years ago, sat with the board and really had a great discussion about where this industry was going, both from a scale standpoint, but also the transformation it was going to go through, and some of the strengths that Microsoft uniquely had, really around great game studios that we already had, and we've obviously added a ton in the time since, the community assets that we had with things like Xbox Live and Minecraft, just massive communities. And we have this cloud capability that's very unique in the game industry when you think about the traditional competitors. And we said it's a big addressable market. It's an addressable market that we are already in, that's going to go through some transformation that we think benefits, and Microsoft can benefit from those transformations, and we can actually help the industry with some of the support that we can provide. And we were all in. And it's been amazing to see the amount of engagement. I report to Satya. He knows exactly what we're doing in the games business. He knows that Age of Empires 4 is shipping next week. And, it's great to have those conversations. And so, yeah, the support from the company has been awesome. And I'm lucky to be in this position and get to work with the amazing team that just does such incredible work for our fans.
But when you play video games with Satya, you let him win, right?
Of course. It is funny now. We'll get on Teams calls, and he really likes our Xbox wireless headset, and he wears them for Teams calls every so often. And it is funny to see him in a Teams call in a business meeting, and there he is with his Xbox gaming headset on every so often. It's really cool. But no, it's been such a fun journey to see, and we're kind of still at the starting line. I view it when I think about the opportunity that we have in front of us. When I look at markets like, the whole continent of Africa, 1.2 billion people, the average age is like 20. That I happen to be executive sponsor for our African Development Center. So I travel there, and I know that gaming is part of the culture there. It's not that I need to introduce anything. It's really just providing access. The internet's there in certain markets. It's very strong. And, we can do work. When I think about India, when I think about Southeast Asia, like so many markets, South America, I mentioned Brazil, there's so much more opportunity for us to help connect creator and player. I'm incredibly excited by that.
Awesome. I mean, Microsoft has been in gaming, you could argue, even before Windows, right? With like Flight Simulator. So
Flight Simulator is actually our oldest, our longest running, currently active development Microsoft franchise. Of everything we just shipped Flight Sim, the new one, last year. It's done really well. It's now on console. But yeah, we've been in the business 40 years. When you go back to Microsoft Adventure, even predates me. One of the few things around here that predates me at this company is our focus on gaming. And it's always been about growing and learning. But I'd say it's been the last 5 to 6 years where we've really looked at it as a core pillar to our consumer strategy, and an area where we think we have some real differentiation relative to the Microsoft competitors that are out there.
Gotcha. All right, we're running low on time, so I thought I'd take a question from some of the readers. We have, what are Xbox's thoughts about the relationship between VR, virtual reality, and Xbox going forward? Is Microsoft content to leave VR as a differentiator to PlayStation for the foreseeable future, and are there risks to doing so?
I think, that when we think about immersion, we think about mixed reality, virtual reality. I'll even take it to metaverse, which seems to be the buzzword of the day now. We're big believers in that software platform and the devices that will enable that. Absolutely. We're focused a lot more on the software side of that right now. When I think about immersive worlds, when I think about the connection of player and community, that's something that's very high on our investment list. We go forward. I think the devices that are out there now, we stay connected with a lot of the players that are out there. We'll put our people building hardware. A lot of that happens on Windows, and we experiment and talk to a lot of the partners that are there. I think that the hardware innovation that's happening is great, and it's an important enabler. Right now, I'm deciding to stay more in the software side of that enablement. I think it will I believe it will scale better in the long run. And I applaud what Sony's doing. I applaud what Oculus is doing, what Valve has done. I mean, there's a lot of good players out there that have done some amazing VR work. But yeah, we're going to stay as a company right now in the consumer space focused on software. And I think that's a good bet.
Got it. Okay, another reader asks, with more people playing games, is there such a thing as people playing too much?
And we take the role of our platform and families and for individuals very, very seriously. We're out there with our stated policies on content, on moderation, on store. And one of the things with our controls, we have family timers that can be set up on a console. We have a pretty robust, we continue to invest on it, family app that a parent can use from their mobile phone to help direct what's happening on the console in terms of spending habits. Again, people who their family can play with, and time limits. Absolutely, like anything, gaming should be done in moderation. And we want to make sure that people feel like they have the tools to support that on our platform. It's kind of a core pillar of what we're about.
All right, since we're running low, I just want to throw one last question myself, something that I think is near and dear to my heart, and I think yours, and talk a little about the accessibility in gaming, because you guys, Microsoft put out a very special controller device for disabled people, and just want to know how popular is that item, and what's the feedback you've been getting from people?
Yeah, the Xbox Adaptive Controller, I know we're running short on time. I'll just say the story behind that, people can find it online, very special. It's actually a hackathon project, just in terms of really committed members of our team wanting to go do something, and then us greenlighting and eventually launching it. What I really like in this space all up, though, not just to make it about Xbox, is how the industry is leaning in. And we have this tagline, when everybody plays, we all win. And we really mean that if we can bring gaming to more people. And it's not just about the adaptive controller. Sony's first-party studios have done some really good work on accessibility. We're tackling more real-life issues in the video games themselves and making those games more available. And there's an incredible community of disabled gamers who are giving us feedback, who we're actually using before we're launching. They come and they give us feedback on the games and hardware to see kind of what can we make, how can we improve, how can we make things better. It is really about the diversity of voices that we hear in the player community and the creator community. It's one of, to me, the just really special things about gaming is bringing the joy and community of gaming to everyone and putting unique relationships together that frankly couldn't really be created in any other way. And whether that's somebody's ability, somebody's financial situation, where they live physically, what device they have, we want to make sure we have the ability for anybody to jump into Xbox, find a game that they would love, find a safe community for them to play with, and play some amazing games together. We think that's can be part of making this world a better place.
Well, that's a great way to wrap. We talk about the wonderful, positive things about gaming, bringing people together, having a good time. And with that, I'm going to go pick up my controller and go play something.